Showcase to your kids that when you work hard and you have these big visions, it's only a matter of time before you're able to achieve it. Become synonymous with consistency. That's how you achieve. Welcome to another episode of Mindset Mastery. I'm your host, AZ Araujo. Go ahead and check in as you're coming on board. Thank you for joining me today. And I got a great topic in mind, and I'm gonna make this quick and easy. I want you just to take a little tidbit of our conversation today and just run with it, okay? I want you just to remind yourself that what you're seeing for yourself is a real possibility. It's no more the thought process of it will be nice if. We're gonna change that conversation of it's gotta be mandatory. There is no other option. Our goals, what we set forth, what we're pushing for is going to happen. And it's this conviction within. It's this desire within that will help you achieve those big, audacious goals that we set forth. Now, last week, we got together and we put together our business planning meeting. And many of you put out some audacious goals, some big goals, right? And some of you put it down but weren't really feeling it. That you were like, well, if I hit this, it would be nice. And, it's got to get to a point where it's no longer that thought process, okay? It's got to be within you knowing that if you do the right things every day, you're going to achieve it. But it's being able to go back to those visions. It's being able to go back to that thought process of why you even put that number down. There's a reason why you wrote it down. There's a reason why you said that you were going to save so much money in your bank account. There's a reason why you said you were going to buy that house for your family, that new car, have that savings account to where you wanted. There's a reason why you said that, because it is a real possibility. But the problem is sometimes we just revert back to it would be nice. I remember growing up, going to high school, and I went to a high school where the college conversation just didn't happen often. I mean, there were those honor roll kids that spoke about college, but it seemed like our high school always invited these vocational schools or these trade schools, right? So there'd be ITT Tech, there'd be these different nursing programs, and not even like a real nurse. It's like these assistants. And it was always about just finding a trade and not seeing beyond that, right? So the professional arena, I just didn't have a clue. And I remember I signed up for college, and my best friend at the time, he signed up for a trade school. And I was going for business, and he's like, hey, so what are you going to do? Like, we couldn't comprehend that. Like, even as I was going to school, as I was going to college, we couldn't comprehend like what exactly I was going for. I was just going for business, right? I was going for business school, but I didn't realize how it was going to affect me or what I was going to do when I got that degree. Because again, we just didn't know professionals. We didn't know those type of people that worked in offices. Most of the time, it was just people that went to trades. They were an assistant, mechanics, construction, that type of atmosphere. That's just where I was at. It was that kind of environment. And I remember he asked me one day, it's like, hey, so what are you going to do with that? And he was just completely bewildered by my decision. But it was a mandatory type of mindset that I knew I didn't want to go the path that they were kind of pushing down our throats. I wasn't meant for that. I wanted something bigger. And I remember just looking through magazines and envisioning myself driving these amazing cars, having these amazing homes. And it was always this vision within me. And I knew I wasn't going to be anything less. There was just this desire to succeed. A deep-rooted desire to go after what I wanted. And even though I didn't comprehend how I was going to get there, I had no idea. But I got up every day and I pushed myself towards that goal. And sometimes it seemed like I was further and further away. But in my mind, I knew I was going to be very fruitful in my life. I knew I was going to create something magnificent in my life. I knew I was going to create a life that I just felt like I was on fire. But it was this deep-rooted desire. It was a process of just understanding that if I can see it, I can achieve it. So every time I write down my goals, it's no longer, it would be nice if I can do that. Now I understand it is mandatory. I wrote it down, you wrote it down. It is now mandatory. But I realize that there's certain things that we have to do to make sure that we go after that, right? That we're able to actually achieve that. One, we have to, not only that, we have to believe what we write down. But before we get there, we got to understand that there's got to be a solid foundation to your actions every day. If you're rolling out of bed 9, 10 o'clock, you're probably not going to achieve the things that you want. If you're not connected at home, taking care of your body, your mental health, you're probably not going to achieve what you want. And you'll be there stuck year after year wondering why you can't hit these big audacious goals and watching other people just blow by you. And I'll tell you what the difference is. They have a solid foundation of what they want, and they've envisioned it already in their minds. There is no other option. It is mandatory. We walked around with the camera. We walked around with the camera where people were just kind of putting out there what they were going to achieve. And I'm able to see those that are truly going to get what they want versus those that are kind of making it an option. Like I can feel that energy, and I can also see that conviction. I can see that conviction within some individuals. And I see that as new agents come on board on a daily basis. I know that those that have made it mandatory to succeed, while others are thinking, well, it would be nice if I can make this much money. It would be nice if I can succeed in this industry. And I can almost pinpoint every person that I knew was going to make it that actually makes it. And I can pinpoint every person that I know whatever they wrote down, they're going to achieve it because they have a solid foundation and they have the mindset that they're not going to make it an option. It is mandatory to succeed. It is mandatory to hit those numbers. It is mandatory to have that money in the bank account. And too many people get thrown off by the emotions of trying to go after these goals, hating the process, forgetting what they wrote down. So I'm going to give you some ideas here today in order for you to understand that what you wrote down is a real possibility, but it's got to go beyond just yourself. I've gone for goals that Carla had no idea about, and I could never reach those goals because it was only within me. And I would only go after those goals when I remembered. Since I didn't have any accountability and nobody else knew I was going for that, well, oftentimes I wasn't able to achieve it. But I remember telling my mom from a very young age, I'm going to be very successful, Mom. I put that out there. And I even told Carla at an early age when we met when we were 20 years old. But here's what I want you to do. You all wrote down your goals. You all wrote down what your lifestyle goals are, right? Some of you put down that you're going to move up to that next house. You even wrote down what you were going to pay for that new house, what it was going to have, how you were going to feel. You wrote down the cars you were going to buy, the investments. You wrote down how much money you were going to have in your bank account, how much in sales you were going to have. And that's great. You shared it with us. You shared it on camera, but I want you to do one more additional step here. I need you to go home and talk to your spouse or your significant other, your kids, whoever holds you accountable. I need you to tell them. They need to know why you're working so hard. They need to know why this must happen for you. Imagine if you got your kids on board with that. Your wife, your spouse, your husband, with what you truly wanted. I promise you would get less resistance because now they're seeing your vision as well. I got a lot of resistance and I was in this mindset, I'm doing all this for my family and look how much heat I'm getting from my spouse and my kids. They're unforgiving. Well, they didn't know what I was striving for. They had no idea what I wanted to achieve for our family. Now Carla and I, literally, we'll sit on the couch or lay on the couch, we'll lay together in bed, and we'll start talking about what we wrote down for the next phase of our lives. We can see ourselves at that level already. We're living in it. We're breathing it. And she'll ask me, so what are you going to do when you walk through the front door? Well, and I will explain what my vision is. And then she'll explain as she comes home from work what she's going to do. The same way we did it with this building. Every day, her and I would talk about how it was going to feel, what the studio was going to look like, what this entire building, how it was going to, how I was going to enter the doors. Like, I already knew all that, but we shared those ideas together. When you have your significant other, when you have your kids on board, it's likely to happen. As a matter of fact, it becomes a mandatory obligation for you to make it happen. But some of you are like keeping all this together, keeping it to yourself. So you have your own goals, your spouse has their own goals, and you guys are constantly at a conflict. Be able to express that. What you wrote down must happen. And if you need to go through that process again to convince yourself of that, then do that. But don't just write it and say it would be nice. Don't just write it and forget about it. I literally have every goal on my home screen. On my home screen. Almost like a vision board. But every day I look at this. Every day when I was going for this building, I looked at what I wanted. I also had it on my home screen of what it was going to look like, what it was going to feel like. And I achieved it because I made it mandatory. Now I set these big goals, and look, guys, I'm just like you. Some of you may feel overwhelmed, like your heart is beating really high. You got some anxiety. You're feeling like, oh my God, am I really going to achieve it? And I'll tell you how you do it. By continuing to contribute to your foundation. Take care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. Take care of your family. Show up as a powerful spouse, husband or wife. Showcase to your kids that when you work hard and you have these big visions, it's only a matter of time before you're able to achieve it. Become synonymous with consistency. That's how you achieve. But it comes with a deep-seated, rooted feeling of knowing that it's only a matter of time. It is mandatory. So guys, I want you to take this conversation. I want you to look back at your goals. If you haven't, I have one more meeting set for Wednesday. So if you didn't get to get together and take some time to see what the next steps are, then join me this Wednesday. Otherwise, look back at your goals, put it on your home screen. Remind yourself every day, have those conversations with your spouse and your family every day, and make it mandatory to achieve it. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Mindset Mastery. Have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Badass Agents Podcast, brought to you by AZ & Associates and Do the Work Coaching and Consulting. You can watch this and other episodes by subscribing to our channel on YouTube or by visiting us directly at badassagents.com. And of course, you can listen to this episode and many others on your preferred podcast provider.